Welcome to the North Hills Podcast, where we're going to take a deeper dive into unique content created just for you. And so what we want to do in the moment that we have together is talk about practical ways of partnering with parents during a pandemic.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of P's there.
Wow. It is a tongue twister. I had to write it down just to make sure
It's okay.
I didn't mess that up.
Yeah.
And so we've got a few minutes to continue in this mini series, little podcast that we're doing. And before I kind of talk about where I want to go and what we want to talk about and who we're with, Ruthie, give them a little recap about the last two podcasts and what we have talked about in the past.
Yes. So we are doing these podcasts because conversations in the hallway just aren't really happening right now.
Nope.
So I really wanted to find a way for us to connect with parents and continue to partner with them as they are parenting. And parenting in a pandemic is, well, we've never done it. So it's hard. So here we are. So our first podcast that we dropped was with Ryan Ferguson, and I did Little Ones in Big Church, because that's kind of where we're all living right now. Yeah. So I thought that was a good way for us to start. And then, of course, as school got closer and closer, we all had to choose what we were going to do for school for our kids this year. So we did a podcast on that.
So
School choice.
Yeah. So if you haven't been able to catch the other podcasts in this little mini series that we're doing about partnering with parents, obviously during COVID-19, go back and listen to those. Super helpful information about what to do with these little ones when you're in, I call it big church. We're so spoiled and used to dropping them off in your world and kid stuff and then going off, with the older ones to, listen to Hubbard, and now here they are. They're with us. And then the last time that we were together, we talked about what to do with schooling and all the uncertainty that comes with that. So I'm super excited to have Natalie with us in the studio today. Natalie, I want to give you just a little bit, maybe a minute or so, just to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your family, how long you've been at North Hills, all of those things. So let the listener know a little bit more about you.
Sure. Okay. How long I've been at North Hills? I'm trying to think. When we first came, they were
toddlers,
babies.
weren't they?
No,
babies?
They were
babies.
Babies.
They were
Babies.
just like,
because I would sit in the nursery
yes.
like every week because they would scream when I left them.
They were not happy. And there were two of them. So
there were two of them. So
I
lived in Ruthie's world then. I don't
for
know.
a long time.
Yeah,
that's
a long,
how we got
long
to know
time.
each other.
Oh, my word. So maybe, they're 8. So maybe 7 years we've been at North Hills.
That is awesome.
That's crazy. I haven't even thought about that.
Now, you have 4 boys?
I have 4 boys. So I have William, who's 10. He just turned 10, and I can't even say
Double
it.
digits is hard.
Yeah.
Okay, moment of silence.
It's okay.
Then I have twin 8-year-olds.
Oh.
And then I have a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
All boys.
Yeah. Oh, mercy.
Yep.
And they're
Can't
active.
imagine. And then what's your husband's name?
Danny.
Awesome. Cool. So you've been at North Hills for about 7 years. We are so happy to have you. Thank you for being with us and
Thanks.
sharing some wisdom and just kind of connecting with other parents throughout our church. So thanks for serving us in that way.
Yeah.
I think what would really be great for us to talk about in our time that we have in the next few minutes is really just talking about, with school year is now started. Things are slowly starting to reopen. Some are, some aren't, but it seems even though we are still, in a pandemic, in some ways it seems like we are coming out of a pandemic.
Right.
And I think we have that sense because school has started. Like, juniors and seniors in our youth group, football is starting.
Yes.
Things are kind of getting back in motion now that summer is coming to an end. The school year has started. So I think it'd be great for us to talk about pressing pause coming out of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to seem like, no, hit the gas. Let's go. more, like cabin fever. Let's go. But I think there'd be a lot of wisdom in us taking time to talk about what things need to stay from the pandemic that we fell in love with, that we didn't know we needed. And now that, our lives are getting a little bit crazier and a little more busier, what doesn't need to come out of that? Like, what grace did God show us from a pandemic, a once in a century kind of thing? So let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about, just because things are starting back up, do we?
Right.
So Ruthie, speak into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that it's really important for parents to feel empowered to press the pause. Like you said, it feels like we just need to gas it because we have been not doing our normal things. Our kids are itching to get back and do all their things. So parents feel comfortable to say, we're actually going to press the pause and put everything back on the table and decide what things need to go back in our schedules and which don't.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself some questions like, well, what did we not miss when we were in pandemic? What did we not want to go back to?
Yeah.
What kinds of things did we really, really, really not miss? And let's never do that again. So have those kinds of conversations. Are you guys having those kinds of conversations, Natalie, at all in your house?
Well, sort of, but I think there's so much in this question because I think so many different elements play into it, like ages of children, like personalities, like what kids need. And I think like the biggest thing for us is like, you just really have to ask yourself, like it's taking time to have conversations. Like, what do we actually value and what do our kids actually need? And what are those extras and what aren't the extras, you know? And like for us, we kind of did jump back into it in some ways because we have a 10-year-old who's like an uber duper massive soccer player, you know, and soccer season just started back. So it's not like, that's kind of like it's kind of like,
press pause on
that.
Like
that's a no-brainer.
Like there's some things that you're just like, yeah, we're doing this because it fits and that's what he needs.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on, but I also think that in a lot of ways we are kind of like overscheduled. And so there are times to step back and think, do we really need this? But I think you just have to go through and say what are the like non-negotiables or what do we value? What is our core value as a family? Like for some families, it may be we have to sit down around the dinner table every night. We did that during the pandemic and it worked awesome. And I want to keep that.
Yes.
And so if something falls within that window, we're out. And for other families, it's like, well, we have a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old and during dinner, it's sports. So that to us is important. And we see a skill and something that's going to further him in that. So our family time can't be around the dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think there's so many different aspects you have to
I totally agree. And I even was talking to a mom the other day and she said, you know, sometimes I feel like I need my kid to do something because it's for them, but it's actually I'm wanting them to do it. So even stepping back and saying, just because I want my kid to get back into this thing, is that what's best for them? Is that what's best for us? Like you said, to be able to keep the dinner schedule and see each other around the table. Maybe that means dinner's at 7 and we have lots of snacks up until then because that's when soccer's over or whatever
that's
it
true.
is. Like,
that's us.
Right.
That is us.
So parents feel empowered to do that, like rearrange the schedule so that you can keep those important things that you really valued during that, okay, nothing is happening. What are we loving about this? Let's take the minute and just keep that.
No, I love that. And while you guys were talking, maybe we can just flip it on its head and talk about, was there anything that came about from this pandemic and when things got a little bit slower, maybe a little bit easier, that you found valuable that you want to keep? It's not necessarily pressing pause on the craziness coming back, but was there anything that happened during that time where you were like, this was so sweet and this was so great? You know, like what you were saying, we do want to make dinner time something that is a non-negotiable that's going to happen. Let me give you a little example. In student ministry, we did a drive-by graduation for our kids in the month of May. Yeah. And it was so good. Yeah. And I looked at Joe LePena, one of our seniors, and I was like, look, we're going to do this from here on out. This was valuable. We would have never done a drive-by graduation if it wasn't for COVID. And we think that's going to be a part of our DNA. So let's talk about that. Was there anything that you think is now very valuable that COVID showed you that you would have never thought was important?
I mean, in a smaller, it's probably not something we're going to keep for forever, but something that just like something that we did kind of not to take the place of sports, but we always had sports in the afternoon, like 5:30, 6:30, you know, that was sports time. So, you know, like I think in the beginning, in all honesty, it was hard. There were long days. Like when you're home,
mercy.
I mean, a mom with 4 boys, and it was just me. Like Danny was gone. Like his work, world never stopped.
Yep.
Smart.
Like
man.
Kept going.
Yeah. I mean, literally, like
on purpose.
Danny was working more hours than ever before.
Danny was working more
pandemic.
hours. Poor Natalie's home, Natalie. Like suffering. Like no,
Danny's
not suffering.
wheels are screeching out of the driveway.
Yeah, he's like, I will be back at the last possible second.
He's awesome.
The last possible second,
so
I will roll
hard.
in right before dinner served.
Yeah.
No, but what we had to do, which actually kind of was fun, in like late afternoon, it gets long.
Yeah.
So Jacob, one of my little twins, he's like the creative. Like and so literally for a while every day he would make like an obstacle course. And we're not going to do this because we have soccer again, but like just something that was really cool for us and kind of gave us that like, I don't know, something on the schedule, so to say. Is he would
being creative,
and he would, and all the boys would have to do that, and I'd be the judge, and it was just like
I love it
like
so
a family
much.
with
that never ends well when mom's the judge.
I know. Well, and they, like after a couple rounds, they would get into it. No, that was not fair. Like the whole thing.
of course.
But it was just like, it was just something different, and they were using their minds, and it was so cool for me to see for like 10 minutes even for them to come together, which doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, just creating small moments at home.
No, but I love
I
that
think so.
almost in a way of feeling bored. And I don't know if he was, but I've noticed with my kids, sometimes I like to alleviate the boredom. I always want something fun or something to keep them captivated but I noticed that they were coming up with such great things just from walking in the backyard by themselves and you would see such beautiful creativity come from boredom. Like I can't remember pre-COVID if my kids were ever bored.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, because you think like, man, you're failing as a parent, or they're going to be so bored, or they're going to start whining and complaining. But when you are quote unquote quarantining at home, you get super creative in ways that you just never really saw from your kids. So that's one thing we want to keep is, hey, you know what? On Saturdays, we don't have to go to Dave & Buster's, or we don't always have to go to a friend's house. We don't always have to fill it in to keep our kids not feeling bored. We noticed that such great things were coming out of who they were in their character, and we were noticing things about them because they were bored in ways that I don't think I ever saw as a parent.
Yeah, and that's something that I noticed too hugely, because I don't know if I'm similar, but I was always like a filler. Like, let's go do this.
I'm the same way.
Because I like to keep going. Like, I cannot sit. Like,
idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Granny.
But is it?
Yeah. But I was that person too. Like, okay, let's go to this place. Let's do this. And so, but in that too, I found that it took some growing. Like, it took that like real struggle in the beginning for them to come to that place of creativity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just birthed. It was just like, it took.
Oh, there was a lot of stubbing of toes, because they would get creative. Like, let's paint the driveway. You're like, how about chalk? No, I want to paint it. And you're like, yeah, you are getting too bored.
Yeah.
We can't paint the driveway
driveway
orange.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Your mother will kill me.
Yeah.
Won't be good. So kind of with that in mind, like, I hope parents are listening and thinking, oh, okay, I don't feel as guilty because my kids were bored, or I wasn't able to fill in the gaps. And I do think that's good food for thought as we process, okay, what needs to stay? What needs to go? As things are starting to speed back up, there needs to be wisdom there. And one of the things, Ruthie, I love that you have right here, that is a good thing for people to see that are watching. For those that are listening, maybe you can articulate exactly what you're doing. But how do we look at our schedules and decide what goes and what stays?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can talk about that, but what's the practical way that a parent can implement this in their household?
Right. Absolutely. So just like Natalie was saying, every child needs something different, and you have to decide what's valuable. What are your core values? And so I have a jar. This jar is empty, and it represents your schedule. Look at how clear that schedule is.
Yeah,
isn't it great? Yeah, this is the pandemic schedule.
I could fill that with video games.
No.
Okay,
no.
Oh, my bad.
I mean,
this is what
we'll
I
get there.
all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to the video games soon.
Brave Spaceball.
Or maybe not. Maybe we'll just leave those out.
Maybe we'll just leave those out.
Something tells me that's going to backfire.
Natalie raises four boys, so she knows about the video games.
Yeah.
So what you have to decide is, how is this schedule going to look? So you have to decide, what are your big rocks, okay? And by big rock, I mean the most important things, the core values.
Non-negotiable.
Not just like, okay, well, it's really important for me to feed my family. Okay, well, they have to have clean clothes. No, I'm talking go deeper than that even. Like, what is at the core of our family? Is that time together? Is that mom and dad having dates? because if mom and dad aren't happy, kids aren't happy.
Yeah, miserable.
Is that less work at home and more work in the office? Is that I really have to have an hour away twice a week so that I can pray and read and write, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, you figure out where your fuel comes from as a family.
You and refreshes you.
Yes, absolutely. So you have to start there. So I'm going to move my cups and start filling with the big rocks.
The non-negotiables. Yes. Okay. All right, so if you're listening at home, the first rock is going in. It's a big rock into an empty schedule that is no longer empty. Okay, rock number 2. Good. Awesome.
And I tried to do that very quietly because, well, the microphones are pretty sensitive.
Yeah.
And
Tyler will edit that.
Well, yes. And you can't hear our voices either when I'm doing things like this.
That's
so,
okay. So you've got your rocks.
So I have my 3 rocks in.
All
so
right.
these are the biggest things. Now, you pick how many. Maybe it's 4 things. Maybe it's 5 things. Maybe it's 6 things. This is just what's going to fit.
Like, even though the rocks are huge, it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge thing. Like non-negotiable dinner.
It's just big.
It's
in the way of value. Not necessarily size
your
or
core values
time.
As a family.
Like, it can be a small thing time-wise, but it means the world.
Okay, great.
Yeah, okay. So then you do have the things that are necessary, like you have to have a job. You have to support your family. So yes, you have to feed your family. You have to have clean clothes. The house should be
yard work,
semi-clean yard work.
Yep.
And then other little things that just kind of you have to do because it's nice. Like you have to go. Tim. You have to go.
I'm being for real. Like the other things, like you have to make time for extended family.
That's true.
You can't forget about your mom.
Just don't say
the timing. The timing was impeccable.
Right.
Other things you have to do: extended family.
I know, right? That
timing.
Was really what it was.
That was really good timing.
It's not about the extended family. It's about when you chose to say that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
My bad.
Yeah. Don't forget about your mom. Okay.
Tyler, can you edit that?
So these other things. He might not be able to edit that one. No, he said no.
Thanks.
He wants to leave that one in. So these other things that are important and they do need to get done. How are you going to get them done?
Okay.
So it looks like my jar is already full. My schedule is pretty full already. So it's kind of a scary thing. So I'm going to start putting smaller rocks because they are important.
Okay.
But they're going to fit in the jar because first I have put my most important things in.
Yeah.
The things that
anywhere.
energize me. The things that are going to let me be able to do all the other smaller things.
Okay.
Because my big rocks are in first.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, small rock number 1. Just let it rip, Ruth. Just let them go. So you've got more room than you think.
Look at that.
Okay. So for those listening at home, it seems like all the smaller rocks that didn't look like it was going to fit, it did. It's in there. Yeah. Okay.
It looked like we had too many of those smaller rocks to fit around all the big ones.
All
it
right.
really did. But there's even some more room at the bottom that you can't really see. I'll turn it.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, but the only reason that worked is because my big rocks are in there first. So yes, there are smaller things that are not maybe as important or as valuable or as energizing, but do have to get done. But you're going on top of your big rocks. It's like you're building kind of a foundation. You have to start with the big rocks and then all the other things can go in after that. And then you have go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I had a question.
Yeah.
So when we're defining the big rocks, does it necessarily have to be a thing like dinner around the table? Or you're talking about going deeper. Maybe it's not dinner, but what are you accomplishing in dinner? What's the point of dinner around the table, right? It's like, so in your mind or one of your core values as a family, you say every day as a family, we have to be together, all of us, for 10 minutes, let's just say.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually that's dinner. Of course, sometimes it can be longer, but let's just say, but let's say dinner can't happen because you have soccer 3 nights a week and that pushes dinner to 7:30. And then you're not going to do that at 7:30 because you've got little kids and you got to get baths and all that.
Yep.
So maybe instead of that, you say every night, right before bed, we're going to take 10 minutes, non-negotiable, and we're going to have devotions. I don't care if it's 8:30. That is our dinner. Or maybe you're not a night person and you need to do it in the morning and you say, I don't care. We're going to get up at 7 and everybody, that's a big rock. So it's not necessarily like dinner around the table. It's one of my core values.
The heart of it.
It's the heart of it. So it's not defining activities anymore. It's defining.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Because that's in the schedule, but it's a very important thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, I love like I grew up in a house where we would do peak or pit or peak and pit.
What is that?
Yeah, my dad would come and say, what was your peak and pit of the day?
Best and worst.
What
We
was
did
your-
that
what
too.
was your best and worst?
Yes. And I
pit.
Yes.
And it didn't overwhelm me. Like I knew it was coming. And it was really simple for me to say, man, my science teacher complimented my work.
Yes, we did that too.
What was your pit? And you're like, man, like, and I would say whatever. And that was very helpful for him.
Yeah.
And for some ways, I felt like that was an easy, simple thing.
So good.
To kind of be an icebreaker of talking. Because if my dad was like, what was the worst part of your day? And it took me by surprise. I'd be like, well, what do you know? And why are you talking to me? You've never asked.
Did you get a call from
trouble?
school?
Right. Did Miss Loper call you? Like, I know I'm in trouble.
Confession.
But I was thinking of that when you were sharing about the heart of it.
And that could be a rock because that's like your one thing.
Yes.
And we do that too, just not consistently. But that is a great reminder. Like
For
we
sure.
do. Maybe we should call it peak and pit because we call it best and worst.
I know.
I
like peak and pit.
Peak and pit.
I think it's whatever you didn't grow up with.
Peak and pit partnering in a pandemic with parents.
Whoa.
Peak and pit edition.
Look at you with all
Thank
those
you.
alliteration on fire here.
I love it.
So you know that this is like, okay, these are all the important things. These are also all the things that have to get done. And then we all know, because we live in the real world, that there are things, little tiny annoying things that get in the way of some of these important things, some of these things that have to be done. So I have to represent that sand, because you get that in. It's
sand is
annoying, right?
Oh.
And it always gets in the places that
You don't want them to be.
I'm with you.
But I just want to say that even those annoying things that you have to figure out how to do, you can't avoid them. And so they do have to go in your schedule.
Oof.
You have to deal with them in some way, shape, or form in your time that you are allotted every day. So
good. Can you name some of those? Like I'm not
No,
asking
that's
to call
totally
people out
fine.
or things out, but like what maybe it would be helpful for other parents to hear what's your sand.
Yeah, my sand is messes 24/7.
Oh yeah.
Even my big kid, who like you would think he can put the silverware in the dishwasher when he's done making his peanut butter and jelly.
He's a boy.
No.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, like that's so annoying to me.
The grunt of pain that came from Natalie was great.
I mean, I know.
It's just messes 24/7.
Yeah.
For me, that's my most like, okay, come on, guys. I can't be the only one ever picking up in this house ever. Let's go.
Yeah. Totally agree. And the wrappers.
Oh, the wrappers.
I mean, like
just like the candy
Why
bars.
can't we just
No,
throw them
like
away?
anything that has a wrapper,
I
like a
gotcha.
Chewy bar.
Yeah.
It's on the table. A Chewy bar, it's on the floor. Like
Ours is towels. No one can hang a towel back up.
Oh,
why?
I don't like damp things.
I know.
Put it up and let it dry.
Yeah.
I don't want a damp towel.
Yeah.
I know.
That's my sand.
Yes.
Towels.
Okay, so I'm going to show you. Sand actually can also fit in here. In fact, it has to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say.
I hope it doesn't. I hope this backfires. All right, for those listening at home, she's pouring the sand. For those watching, you can obviously see. Oh, man, there's way too much room for that sand because it's going in.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. This is a great visual. I love this, Ruthie. Well done.
And it's still going.
Oh, man.
It's still going.
I could probably put more, but that's all I brought.
I feel like in my life, there's about that much sand. Lots of damp towels.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
Natalie, what were yours? Did you ever say what your sand was? The wrappers?
Well, the stuff left out, but floors too. Like I'm just like, I mean, I'm kind of anal in general, but like the floors, I just can't. You know, like messes and spills.
No, I'm the same way. I got a dustbuster for Christmas.
And you know what?
Because I
As
love
a present.
Yeah, from my mother-in-law.
Do you have that little handheld one?
Oh yeah.
I can't. I would
Dyson.
die without that.
I'm
It's
gonna
like
have
same
to get
here.
one of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah,
all
and
the
I get
time.
yelled at because I do it too much.
Oh,
Like it'll be
I do
early
it all
in the
the time.
morning, and they're like, "Please don't vacuum," and I'm like,
I'm so bad that my husband won a robot.
Yes.
I don't know what. Maybe I used it too much. It's broken.
"Oh, the
Yeah, it vacuumed all.
the little floor
We
circular
named ours.
robot."
We
thing.
call him D-Bot.
Yeah.
Ah,
And the kids are like, oh, we have to pick
Alligator.
up because Steve has to go.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, in our remaining time, because we could probably talk about sand.
All
I know
day,
I could.
probably.
Sand forever. So like
all day.
Let's just kind of end with this. Okay, we had this practical. All right, let's talk about schedules, the realization of life picking back up. What are the wins? What are the losses? What are things that we have learned through a pandemic? You know, the second thing we talked about was what's the wisest way to go about our schedules, which I loved that visual analogy that you had for us. But let's kind of wrap up with like, what is God doing in this transition time? Because we are, even though we're in this massive COVID transition, I feel like there's a small transition within the big transition, if that makes sense. So like, let's talk about things that you feel God has been doing in your homes and in your families, and things of parents that God has been teaching you in the tiny transition that is COVID-19.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Totally. So I know that God is giving burdens to families that they would not have ever heard or paid attention to before in the busyness of life.
Yeah.
And he just cleared all that away. And like for you, like realizing, wow, we really like having this dinner. Like this is a non-negotiable.
Yep.
Like having the time to find those burdens or those things that God really wants for us as a family to continue in. And I think that also he's giving us gratefulness, at least at our house. Like, oh yeah, it's so good to have that again. Man.
Yes.
What a blessing. Like God has given us such amazing opportunities, and even just relationships with friends that we haven't been able to get back until like just recently because of their comfort levels or whatever it
Ruthie,
is.
Do you know what's going to be the most popular and celebrated thing ever in the history of our church? And whenever the Lord does open up the doors, it's going to be Mona Lisa, Rags, and Artie. Because we haven't had them.
We missed
in
them so much.
They're going to be like,
rock
man,
stars.
Kids are going to lose their mind.
There's going to be a rave started in.
I know. Like, right. But like, they probably were never celebrated, or kids were never truly thankful for Rags until Rags had to take a little hiatus.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're
It's
so right.
stuff like that, though, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for me, it's been because I'm such a doer, and I'm such a goer. Like I just go and do, and it's really, really like I say this with all sincerity. Like it is very hard for me to be still to this day. Like very hard. And so finding like a groove and a pattern in this COVID was really difficult for me. Like that could be a whole podcast. Just like just finding. Like even finding God at home all the time, like finding I could just see it, you know? But anyway, so for me, it's been growing, like just really appreciating, coming to the point, remember it's a struggle. So it was like rubbing, right?
Yes.
Rubbing for a while.
Yeah.
And then coming to a place where I could just stop and appreciate what was before me versus just filling it.
Yeah.
Because I have a really hard time with my kids growing up. Like I love the little years, and that's just so hard for me. But God was almost like, I love it.
Grow up as fast
That's
as
why
you
you
can.
do the thing
Oh,
that
I
you
can't.
do.
Please.
I mean,
And we do
every
the
day-
thing we do.
Yeah, every day I struggle. Like but like God was like, but Natalie, I'm giving you time back.
Yes.
Like I'm giving
Aw,
you this.
that's
You know
so
what I mean?
good.
So that was like a
Yes.
very good
Yeah.
like continual lesson, and just something I found in COVID. I think.
Are you also extremely
Yeah.
extroverted?
I mean, I call myself an introvert, but then I think
Okay.
I don't know when I know
I
everyone's
think
like you're not. But I don't know.
I think you're probably.
I think it's like how you're
What
energized. Like
Enneagram are you?
I'm
Just
a-
kidding. Don't
I-
say so.
Please don't answer that. I'm just kidding.
Mercy.
I
Well,
mean,
because I was going to say, like, another
I'm a-
podcast could be like the toll. Look, I know extroverts can drive people crazy, but we do at some point need to talk about the toll this has taken on like
Yes.
people that love hugs and high fives, and like you're so wired to be a touchy-feely person, and if you do that now, it's like, you know, you're going to go to jail for 9 months or something. It's like, man, this is like starting to take its toll
Yeah.
on me.
Absolutely.
You
My,
know?
my poor little son is kind of dying. My 5-year-old.
He can always go
Oh,
give
I
you a
know.
little hug.
I
He's
know.
such a hugger.
Oh,
and it's
precious.
so hard.
Yeah.
oh, bring him on. Like,
Yeah.
hugs
We'll come
all the
see you.
Yeah,
He's the best.
please.
Well,
High fives. And
Yeah,
hugs.
thank you guys for sharing that. Like, I hope for
Yeah.
those that have been listening that this has just been refreshing. And this is practical stuff. Like anyone, no matter what stage you are in your time of following Jesus, or how long you've been a parent, or how short of a time you've been a parent, like I think this is very practical stuff that parents can be encouraged with, just to maybe think through, consider, take it before the Father and say, God, what is it you have for us? And what is it that you don't? and really be in tune to listening to the Spirit to help him kind of do some of that weeding. So, Natalie, thank you so much for being with us. You're the best. We love having you and your family a part of our church.
Thank you.
Ruthie, it's needless to say,
I know.
you're the best.
Always a pleasure, Tim.
You're wonderful. You're the best. So, hey, guys, thank you so much for listening. The next, the way we're going to close this mini-series podcast, episode 4, is going to be how to answer your kids' questions about COVID and its effects on the community and our families. Because, man, those kids have questions. They have a lot going on, and maybe they just don't know how to articulate it yet. But now with school starting back up, there's going to be a lot more questions, a lot more speed bumps in the way. Sure. So hopefully you guys will tune in, hang out with us to maybe talk about that. Help share this podcast with your friends. Help us get this out to our church community and really the upstate, the world.
The world.
There you go.
Share
Dream
it.
big.
Yes.
Go big.
Love it. We love you guys. Be blessed. Have a great day.